Today we'll go ahead and finish up Chapter 4 by looking at one more day of solving these word problems using trig. Okay, and today we're going to go ahead and work on bearing. And before we get started, at the top of your page, I'd like you to go ahead and draw your compass. Okay? This is east, north, west, and south. So that's nothing new to you. Okay? So, number one, what I want you to do on every one is as you start, go ahead and draw your compass. So it says you walk 1.2 miles due east. So I'm going to go easterly 1.2 miles. Followed by 2.4 miles due north. So I've walked this far, I now go north, which would be going up. So I'm now going to go up 2.4 miles north. At this time, what is your bearing from your house? Your bearing is your, like your location in terms of degrees. Location in degrees. So, what I really want you to locate is theta, right here. Now, what some people like to do is they like to go ahead and pull the triangle out so that they don't have everything in one little spot. I'm going to go ahead and try to keep it as part of it. We're going to now label the O, the A, the H, and do a little trig. Okay, so this is my opposite, my hypotenuse, and my adjacent. So, SOHCAHTOA. One thing I want to make sure you guys do is grab your calculators and let's go ahead and put them, if you aren't in degrees, you should be from yesterday, but just double check that you're in degrees. Alright, so I have an O and an A. I'm going to do the tangent of theta is equal to 2.4 over 1.2. Now when you're looking for an angle, do you agree to isolate theta, you would divide by the tangent? Well, dividing by the tangent is the same as taking the inverse tangent. Alright, so you grab your calculator, you hit inverse tangent, 2.4 divided by 1.2, and I get that theta is approximately 63 point, what are we rounding to? It doesn't say. Let's just go to the nearest tenth, 0.4 degrees. Now because it's bearing, bearing is given in really weird words in this book, and as far as I checked with the pre-calculus teachers, it is as well. So bearing always feeds off of north or south. Okay? So, I hope I just said that it always feeds off of north and south. So to get to theta, I know that theta is really 63.4. But I want to know how many degrees, do you agree that right now I am east of north? So I am north, how many degrees east? So I'm here, because I have to feed off north, I'm not 63.4. What is this corner? Isn't this a 90-degree angle? So now I'm going to want to do 90 minus 63.4, and I get 26.6 degrees east. Because do you agree that this complementary angle here, let me zoom in, that this complementary angle here would be 26.6. So now I am north 26.6 degrees heading in an easterly direction. And bearing is something that's just going to take you a while to get used to, but once you get used to it, you'll be okay. Alright, so I assume we'll address that tomorrow, but let's see if we can go ahead and do a couple more and maybe it'll fall out on its own. Alright, number 2. A boat leaves the entrance of a harbor and travels 68 miles on a bearing of south 34 degrees west. how many miles south and how many miles west of the border has the boat traveled? Alright, let's start with my little compass. I am facing south, but going 34 degrees headed to the west. So do you agree that I started out due south, but now I've turned my course to the west by 34 degrees? Now finish up your triangle. So my question is, how many miles south, how many miles west have I traveled? So do you agree this is the south piece, which we're going to call Y, right, because he's the Y-axis, and this would be the west piece, which we'll call X. It doesn't matter what you name them. I just like to always think of Y as being the vertical piece and X as being the horizontal. Now, do you see the problem? I don't have an angle in my triangle. So without an angle in my triangle, I can't do trig. So do you agree that I can do, what is this corner? Isn't that corner a 90-degree angle? So I can get his complementary angle. 90 minus 34 would give me 56 degrees. Now I'm going to go ahead and label the O, the A, the H. So Y is my O, my H, and my A. I'm going to pull this triangle out just so I can actually see some stuff. I'm missing one piece of information. How far did my boat travel? So how far did my boat travel? It went 68 miles. So that becomes 68. Now let me relabel. Opposite, hypotenuse, adjacent. Now I can finally see what I've got. Now when you're solving for X and Y, just like you did in geometry, you're going to go ahead and solve for X. Then you're going to solve for Y. So when I solve for X, so ignore Y for a minute, X is the A and the H. So A and H would be cosine. So the cosine of 56 is equal to X over 68. Now, do you remember how to solve trig functions? It's been a little bit since we've done them. You can throw a little 1 underneath here and you just cross multiply. So X is equal to 68 times the cosine of 56. So I grab my calculator and I say 68 cosine 56. And I get 38, what are we, miles? And that's west, right? Because this was along the west pennant. Alright, I'm going to let you try to solve for Y. So this time ignore your X and go ahead and set up what your trig function is. Alright, I'm getting ready to expose the answer, so if you have not finished, you're going to want to pause me for just a minute. Okay? Here we go. So to find Y, I knew it was the sine function because I had an O and an H. And then I multiplied, just did my proportion, and I got 56.4 miles south. Alright? Number 3. A park ranger sights a bear directly to the south. A second ranger 3 miles east of the first ranger also sights the bear. The bearing from the second ranger to the bear is south 32 degrees west. How far is the bear from the first ranger? Alright, let's put her in terms of a picture. So draw your little compass. Now, this one's going to be a little bit weird. I'm going to have Ranger 2 standing right there. And he is 3 miles east of the first Ranger. So do you agree that Ranger 1 really is over here? Because Ranger 2 is 3 miles east. Okay, so 3 miles goes there. It says the bearing from the second Ranger to the bear is south 32 degrees west. So let's try to get our bearing again. The bear is headed due south, but he is turned to the west. So take your pen and turn it to the west 32 degrees. How far is the bear from the first Ranger? So the bear's over here somewhere. There's the bear. My question is, how far away is the bear? If you'd like to, you may redraw that triangle so it's not in this big gobbledygook. So this is 3, this is X. Do you see that angle is missing? So how do I find that angle? Well, what do I know about these axes? Don't they make a 90-degree angle, so aren't these angles complementary? So I can do 90 minus 32 and find out that this was truly a 58-degree angle. Alright, now what would I do now? I'm hoping you said label the O, the A, the H. Decide which trig function you have and go ahead and set it up. And again, I'm going to just pause for a moment and let you try to figure out what you think your answer is. The Ranger 1 has to find out how far the bear is so he knows how quick he's got to run. That was my joke for the day, in case you were wondering. Alright, I'm going to expose my answer. For you in this lesson, the hard part should be setting up your triangle. Once you get it set up, this hopefully is the easy part. Okay, so I did the tangent function. I put a little 1 under him, and then I cross-multiplied, and I found out the bear was 4.8 miles from Ranger 1. Number 14. A jet leaves a runway whose bearing is north 40 degrees west from the control tower. After flying for 15 miles, the jet turns 90 degrees and flies on a bearing of south 50 degrees west for 20 miles. At this time, what is the bearing of the jet from the control tower? So my control tower is right here. The plane takes off at north 40 degrees west. So take your pen if you need to. You are heading due north, but you have turned in a westerly direction 40 degrees. So do you agree that your plane is flying this way? Your plane then turns 90 degrees and starts flying this other direction. And I'm going to go ahead and put in a few other things. It says that I flew for 15 miles in this direction before I made a 90-degree turn and went for 20 miles. Now, I know it gives you this next bearing, but for these problems, we don't even need that. Because this bearing will always be, the north will change to a south, and it will be its complement. My question is, after that happens, here's my plane. And again, I'm not going to draw a picture because I am not so good at that. My question is, what's the bearing of the jet from the control tower? So I want the bearing of the jet, which would be theta, right in here. Now, I am going to go ahead and pull this out for just a minute so we can look at it, and then if we need to, we can put it back in. There's my right angle. This is theta. This is 15 and 20. Alright, so step one, what I'd like you to do is go ahead and do the O, the A, and the H, and decide which trig function you have. Alright, you guys have it all set up. So this is my O, this is my H, this is my A, so I'm doing the tangent function of theta is equal to 20 over 15. Little bit different, how do you get theta by himself? You would divide by the tangent, which is the same as taking the inverse tangent of 20 over 15. And I've shifted to the old style calculator so we get rid of the glare. So shift tangent 20 divided by 15. And theta is 53.1. Now I need to come back over here to my picture and I'm going to zoom in for you. Do you agree that that theta is 53.1? But my question is, what's my plane truly flying at? So remember, everything feeds off of north or south. So my plane was originally headed north, but now I have turned this far. So do you agree that I've turned 40 degrees and 53.1 degrees, which is going to take me at 93 degrees, 0.1. So at this point, what have I figured out? So I would be north 93.1 degrees west. But you know what? I've just found out that my picture wasn't drawn to accuracy. Because since this number is over 90 degrees, don't you agree that my plane is really down in this quadrant? This number should never be over 90. If it's over 90, then we know that we've sketched our picture wrong. So what we're going to do is say, you know what, I really should have been flying from the south and headed in a westerly direction. Now what will I do to get that under the 93.1 degrees? If we just say (180) minus that, I'll put me at 86.9 degrees. Okay, again, let me just go over that one more time, and then that's where we'll end. We'll finish number 5 tomorrow. You can't necessarily rely on your picture as the most accurate thing, okay? Because we don't know. Well, I mean, you can even look at mine. Look at how long I drew my 15 and how short I drew my 20. But you're never going to know if you really crossed over out of what quadrant and into another quadrant. But when you see that your number is more than 90, you know that your picture is wrong. What my picture should have looked like was this. I should have gone on a bearing of 40 degrees, 15. Then I should have turned 90 degrees and headed down here at 20. Do you see now that I am in this quadrant down here? So what we did is we found out that this angle here was 93.1. I want this angle because remember with bearing I would be headed south, heading west. Okay? So we'll pick that up tomorrow and finish up example 5. And this finishes us with chapter 4, so test is Thursday. Have a great one.